What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. With this season and all of these builds, y'all have been absolutely killing it on the support, blowing past 4K with no issues, so I truly appreciate that. And we got another banger for y'all today with this strand build for our Warlock, combination of two new exotics from the season, a trace rifle in the exotic kinetic slot with the Navigator. This is a strand burn trace rifle, like I said, pairing that with the Cenotaph Mask on the helmet for our Warlock here, creating a crazy strand synergy of being able to get woven mail for not only ourselves but for our fellow guardians, being able to suspend everything with this build, as well as have threadlings almost consistently with getting our grenade back, as well as our rift, taking advantage of that new aspect as well. So let's get right into it, showing off this insane combination for the Navigator and Cenotaph Mask. Now, taking it to our subclass right here, we are using our Needle Storm, of course, with me personally going with Healing Rift, Burst Glide, and our Arcane Needle. Now, for me, I'm going with Threadling Grenade for the reason of our new aspect, and this will help us to create more tangles. Now, onto our first strand aspect using Weaver's Call. So when we throw down that rift, we're going to cast 3 threadlings and deploy them if we have any of them perched, which we're not really going to have too many of that because we're not consuming our grenade, but they do come back to you and perch sometimes if they can't find enemies. Next, right here, taking it to the Wanderer, the new strand aspect for the Warlock, which allows tangles that you throw to attach to targets and detonate into a suspending burst. Threadling final blows create tangles. That's why we're using the rift to create them, as well as that grenade. And you will see we're going to be creating tangles everywhere, allowing us to deal with adds very easily, as well as even stun those unstoppable champions just by throwing a tangle. Now, on top of that, the synergy of the Navigator being strand with this subclass and the Cenotaph helmet, we're going to be able to create heavy as well for our teammates because of that helmet, and basically consistently reload the Navigator, which applies a sever effect the longer we have it on a target. And with the suspend right here, that's why we're using Thread of Continuity, so suspend, sever, and unravel have that increased duration. We're going to be creating all 3 of these with this build. Now, onto an important mod, definitely the Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy, allowing us to have more threadlings, which in turn allow us to have more tangles, creating that synergy of this build, suspending everything, using our weapons for that sever, unravel, creating even more tangles, and you can see that synergy with basically having that woven mail up at all times. Next on the list, because we're going to have that woven mail up basically the entire time, we're going to have weapon final blows create tangles via Thread of Transmutation. So when we have those defeats, we're going to create even extra tangles, which can be applied for the Wanderer, allowing us to throw them around, even shoot them if we need to for the explosion, but we're trying to collect them and throw them as much as we can for that explosion in suspend. And you'll see we're going to have severing, unravel, everything consistently, like I said. And last but certainly not least, Thread of Evolution right here. I do have another option if you want to go with that, to have woven mail up even more, but I think you have it up consistently, as you will see why in a second with that Navigator. So I personally like Thread of Evolution, so those threadlings have a better chance to get that final defeat by traveling farther and dealing more damage, so we can get more of those tangles to spawn. But if you didn't want this, you could go with Thread of Warding, so picking up Orbs of Power grants you woven mail, which will help us proc this for tangles as well, but I personally went with this in Thread of Evolution. Now, why this build is so good and that insane synergy, the new exotic trace rifle in our kinetic slot, the Navigator with that strand burn. You can see right here, protective weave. Firing this weapon at an ally grants us woven mail to both us and the target. So this is insane because it allows us to proc all of those fragments aspects that we are using for tangles, strand, and suspend. Plus, we're able to create that woven mail not only for us, but for our allies, allowing this to be a good support build as well. And then we have dealing sustained damage severs targets, like I said, why we have Thread of Continuity on, so that sever can last a little bit longer. And then when you do get the catalyst, you can special reload to create a grapple point at the target. So you can use this if you got a full team of strand, or if you do use the grapple, but I personally am using it more for this protective weave to get woven mail, as well as that sever effect. Plus, just a little caveat, if you're just defeating enemies with this weapon solo, not even shooting your teammates, you can get woven mail to proc, so this is viable in solo activities, granting yourself woven mail with just the Navigator. Now, onto our energy and heavy. I'm using Ikelos SMG Feeding Frenzy Volt Shot for the Technicolor Siphon on one of the seasonal mods, so we can create orbs of power with arc and strand weapons. And then I am using Laser Painter right here with stats for all hatchling. Definitely looking for a better roll on this, but that hatchling on those defeats give us even more threadlings, which apply to this build in creating tangles and that crazy suspend of this build with throwing them. Now, on top of all of that, we have our artifact this season, which makes this build even better. Now, in future seasons, once this artifact is gone, this build will definitely still work very, very good, but it is even better right now, especially because of these top three, if you will, with this artifact. So for me, I'm using Overload Trace for that Navigator with Authorized Strand as well as melee mods, and that Technicolor Siphon, like I said, so strand and arc weapons can give us orbs of power. Now, most importantly, we got improved unraveling and strand soldier, so increase the amount of damage dealt by unraveling targets, and then our strand weapons gain unraveling rounds whenever we have woven mail and we have that strand subclass equipped. So we are going absolutely nuts with that Navigator, giving everybody woven mail, proccing this, and giving just insane ad clear potential, which in turn will proc this for our teammates as well, which those targets that are affected by those debuffs, whether it be the sever from our Navigator or the unraveling rounds from the Navigator or our heavy, allow arc and void abilities, so that Thunder Crash to do more damage on those targets, and it helps with giving us heavy, as you will see on our helmet. And then we are going to use this when we perform finishers with woven mail. We're going to give it to nearby allies, which again help with the synergy of giving everybody woven mail, proccing everything on this artifact as well as the fragments. And you will see with the helmet why it is crazy as well, because we're giving heavy out for free to our teammates. Moving on to this landing pad of a helmet, so sexy, let me tell you. High priority, steadily reloads a portion of your equipped traced rifle to the magazine from reserves, damaging a vehicle, boss, or champion with the trace rifle. Matching your subclass marks it as priority, while we're using that Navigator with this strand build, so we can get that suspend, unravel, sever. Plus, we're going to be able to use this to mark them as that priority target, which allows our allies to deliver that final blow, which spawns them heavy, which is insane, giving that GMs just came out. We're able to use this in that endgame, giving our allies that infinite heavy, basically, so they can keep up that DPS. Plus, that endgame with woven mail becomes a little bit easier with that survivability, so this build is absolutely insane with that synergy. Now, as for the mods that we are using, that Technicolor Siphon for arc and strand weapons to give the orb of power, as well as special ammo finder, so we always have ammo up on that Navigator, allowing us to have the crazy synergy of this build like I have been talking about. Moving on to our arms right here, got firepower, bolstering detonation, and momentum transfer, so we're going to create orbs of power on those grenade defeats with our threadlings, as well as giving us our class ability back and our melee back when we do damage with those threadling grenades, so a nice little internal feedback loop right there. Moving on to the chest piece, we have the double harmonic reserve for those strand weapons, mostly for our Navigator, so we can have about 500 shots inside of that trace burst rifle, allowing us to never run out of ammo basically. And then I have arc resistant on, but you can switch it out for any of our burns, solar, void, or stasis, depending on what you're going into. But with the dungeon and light blade like I went through, arc is flying around everywhere. Moving on to our boots, allowing us to have even more damage with that Navigator using Strand Weapon Surge. It's about a 17% damage increase inside of PvE, so this applies to our Navigator as well as our Linear Fusion Rifle, so it helps with that extra little DPS as well, bosses, champions, whatever it may be. And then Absolution, when we pick up Orbs of Power, we're going to get all of our abilities back, so Melee, Rift, and Grenade, just making that synergy of ability spam a little bit better too, with those threadlings creating tangles, which we throw to suspend, using that woven mail, creating heavy for everybody and keeping everyone alive. And last but certainly not least, we have Powerful Attraction, Time Dilation, and Bomber. Powerful Attraction, when we throw our Rift down, we're going to collect those orbs around us, proccing Absolution on our boots. And then Bomber, we're going to get our grenade back when we throw down our Rift, which Time Dilation right here with that Armor Charge, which applies to our boots, and that Strand Surge, so it allows us to have that up even longer, like I said, creating that synergy of having us get Sever from the Navigator intrinsically, getting those unraveling rounds from our artifact, getting Suspend from the tangles that we have on this build because of our new aspect this season, and then the infinite free heavy that we can give to our fellow guardians with the Cenotaph Mask, pairing it with the Navigator. It is super fun with this build. Definitely going to be a good go-to for me for GMs this season. Like I said, very good for that survivability with the woven mail, as well as just the heavy for our teammates being able to wipe out those champions, bosses, whatever it may be in the GMs. Plus, we're gonna have that beautiful Suspend, which I personally think is the best verb for the Strand subclass, but Unraveling Rounds is super nasty as well. So with this, we're getting all three of those. Thread of Continuity is pushing that. We're getting the Threadlings consistently with our Rift, Thread of Generation, as well as our grenade. And like I said, woven mail plentiful for you and your guardian in the fire team, and that heavy ammo as well. So very fun build. Definitely throwing it in the S tier build this season with that artifact, and it'll probably still be a very high A tier, if not still an S tier build once that artifact goes away. So thank you guys so much for that support. Again, truly appreciate it. If you don't want to miss any of these videos, weapon guides, build guides, anything like that, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss out on any of it. Join the Discord, Twitter. Those are definitely the two easiest places to get a hold of me. So I truly appreciate that support. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.